Recording in progress.
Gail Evangeletti is LA, also East Coast in Florida, and is so wonderful to come out to LA. And today she's going to be out here via Zoom. So I want to thank NAMI Urban Los Angeles for doing this. I want to thank the president, Mr. Harold Turner, for putting this on for us. This is such a needed mass of information that families just don't know about at all, really, and they flounder out there without this kind of information. So we have, from hearsay, from attorneys or from public guardians or from other reliable sources, we have amassed all this information. Just remember, we ourselves are not attorneys, okay? So with that in mind, just remember that we're going to cover the LPS conservatorship laws and resources today. So thank you for attending, and let's, Acerelli, if you will, please get the presentation up on the screen. Okay, so, okay, click on continue to get rid of the fact that the meeting is being recorded, and that will go away. So this is a guide for families with someone who already, has a family member that is LPS conserved. Next slide, please. So again, today's presentation is presented by NAMI Urban Los Angeles. I'm not here in Orange County, but I am so impressed with what Mr. Turner has done in Los Angeles, the support that he offers to his community, to Gail, myself, and others, that I said, I'm going to join their organization. So even though I'm Orange County, I myself am a member of this great group of people. So today's presenters are the Department of Mental Health Office of Public Guardian, Marie Gallaloon, NAMI Urban Los Angeles, myself, Jim Farrell, Alexander Evangeletti. Don't shoot me, Gail, for mispronouncing your name. It's only been 8 years. And of course, Gail Evangeletti, who has just been a wonderful mentor and a friend, and has been so wonderful to work with me between the two counties with families over the years. So
may I interrupt and just say, Marie can't be here today because it's a holiday and she was on a 3-day trip, so that just wasn't going to work out. Normally, the Department of Mental Health sends over one of their public guardians, and they're very helpful, especially with some of the questions. But she won't be here today, but the three of us will be. And I would like to say something about Jim. I met him years ago and he's an amazing researcher, great person to collaborate with. And because of his energy and what I do in LA, we've been able to get through things that should have been, that are the law. We've been able to manage to get people to pay attention to them and to abide by the laws, which has made a big difference for y'all, especially in this having someone under conservatorship. So, and you'll hear what those laws are later on, and we will walk you through them if you have trouble. Okay, sorry, Jim, go ahead.
Oh, it's all right, I'm blushing already. Next page, please. So these are special thank yous to Maddie Cobbs, Harold Turner, as I say, he's president of NAMI Urban Los Angeles, and of course our webmaster who is doing all these wonderful things for us, Acerelli Hernandez, who is behind the scenes, running this program for everybody that's here today. Thank you. Next slide, please, Acerelli. So what we're doing is something that actually involves some expenses. And, at the end of this, if you feel like this was worth your time, remember that NAMI Urban Los Angeles is not only a worthy organization that you could join, but it's one that we would ask that you please consider donating for the conservatorship program. And this is where you can send that to. We can bring this information up later. Again, we don't want anybody to donate if you're not in a financial position to do so. But otherwise, we would certainly welcome some support in return. Next page. And again, I've made the disclaimer that we share what we've learned. I can't even read today. We share what we have learned, seeking to give the greatest probability for success for recovery. We make suggestions. You determine the direction you wish to pursue. We present the laws that should help guide your decisions. Most information presented pertains to Los Angeles County. However, the LPS conservatorship laws are actually statewide laws. Who interprets them is a different story. As we found that in Orange County, Los Angeles County, we see eye to eye on things. The further east, the further north, the further south, they tend to not always interpret the laws in their courts and other agencies as we do up here. So it's harder to get the help that you need sometimes. San Diego, I think, is doing a good job in that regards. So that's our disclaimer for the day, and I think the next slide belongs to Gail, if I'm not mistaken. Alexander.
All right, we're on the next slide, number 6. Okay, welcome. My name is Alexander. Thank you for the introductions. Okay, so if you petition the judge for the conservatorship, and then once you do get it granted, and then you are the conservator, it's a good habit to start referring to yourself as conservator. This is mostly when you're introducing yourself to somebody who's going to be working with you pertaining to the conservatorship and the treatment. So refer to yourself as a conservator. It creates a position of command and authority. So hopefully you will be regarded as they'll start to listen to you more than just a regular person. Yes, there was a free NAMI to family to class. They offer these periodically. They come out. They're a great class if you're still trying to get the conservatorship, and they have lots of good tips. It's worth your time. Tip number 3, I guess. We're just a few tips here. Keep journals. You want to keep track of all your dates and stuff, and what was done on which dates. And then things you do want to keep track of here are when the medications are changed, doses, the kind of medication, and if anything's been added or removed. So keep track of that. Keep track of who is in charge of the treatment, the name of the psychiatrist, the first date and whenever they see each other, and especially if they've made some, I guess, changes again. You want to be able to go back to this and recall what happened, because things will make more sense. So the medications, any placement, people with whom you speak, those are important. Keep track of these, record them, and then just get involved and do whatever you can. Make sure that you're kept in the loop, and you want. This is where it helps to call yourself the conservator, because it reminds the treatment staff that they have to keep you in the loop. Next slide. What is a conservatorship? Now that we've already started, and a lot of you might already have the conservatorship, and I think I've seen some of you coming back here before. I start to recognize some of the faces. An LPS conservatorship is a term used. The LPS is just for the state of California, named after Lanterman, Petrus, and Short. They drafted the law and had it passed in 1974. Just about every state would have something like this, but California is named after our congressmen and our lawmakers. The laws are in the California Welfare and Institutions Code, beginning at 5200. These are state laws, and we're working mostly with Los Angeles County, but the laws they're available everywhere in the state. And they have, since 1974, they're about 50 years old now. So they do not reflect all the new medications that have been developed, all the new theories and treatment, and the new theories of mental health. So these are going to be changing, and they're now they've been under application and going through the process to be reordered. Next slide. Okay, this is from the Los Angeles Mental Health Court. This is a booklet that they can give you whenever you first start as conservator, and it's got a lot of tips and helpful instructions on how you can how to navigate through the various placements and also the legal intricacies, I guess. It's also found on the internet. There it is. There's a website at lacounty.gov. This is called A Guide to Guardianship and Involuntary Mental Health Treatment. And so this is a resource, a publication from Department of Mental Health intended for conservators. Then I have the next slide, Essence of Conservatorship. Oh, yeah. I can't see the slides changing. It does it too quickly on the video. Essence of Conservatorship. It does it faster than I read. Essence it says to mandate medication. If you have a conservatorship and maybe you've been on conservatorship for a long time, and you'll see as we go forward through the class that you'll start to learn about how the conservatorship will work with you as you improve and become more, as the conservatee becomes more independent. The conservatorship will change, and they have less restrictive settings available. But the basic part of it, the main issue is the medication. And so even if you have a right to your own placement, there's still the medication. And that's my part.
Okay, the types of conservatorship, and I think we've talked a little bit if you were in the Saturdays class, but to go back over it, when you're getting that conservatorship, it's the treating doctor at the hospital or the jail who initiates the conservatorship investigation with the public guardian's office. The one that they initiate it for is of the person. If you need it of the estate, then ask the public guardian, let them know that you need it of the estate. That would be if they have bills to be covered, school loans to be paid off. And if you do have a school loan, you can request that the amount be totally waived if they're ill like this. It is the court that will grant you the conservatorship of the estate. It doesn't mean they have $1 billion or $1 million and you have to control that. It's not that. If they have court cases, debts, anything at all like that, somebody has to handle that. So ask about the conservatorship of the estate, not with the doctor, but with the public guardian or the court. And you can also ask at the court if they could assign you an attorney. That's your attorney for the year. If you have any questions, you can ask the attorney, and they're free. Now, if there's money in the estate, not money owed, but money in the estate, then they might take out money to pay for the attorney and pay for the public guardian. Sometimes they'll do that. But most people don't have money, so they're granted to you pro bono. Next. Succession of conservatorship. When you're granted the conservatorship, or if the public guardian's been granted the conservatorship, you can have that changed anytime during the year. You don't have to wait till the end of the year. What you do is you contact the court. If you're the conservator and you go, whoa, this isn't working out. This is more than I bargained for. I want to give it back to the public guardian. You can go to court, and it takes maybe about a week, 10 days or so, and you can give it back to the public guardian. Likewise, if the public guardian has it and you want to be conservator, you can request it, and the public guardian will do an evaluation of you. And if they find that you're a responsible person, believe me, they are thrilled to pass it over, because it is a lot of work. Each one of those public guardians handle maybe 50 to 75 cases. So they can only give so much time per person, where you as an individual can give quite a bit. Just write a letter to Department 103 for the change of succession, and they pretty much, they'll give you the court hearing in about a week, 10 days, and it's a done deal. Next. Who should be conservator? If the public guardian is the conservator, there's several pros, and we're fortunate because in Los Angeles, our public guardians work with the family as long as that family is reasonable. If they're calling them every day and asking them all these questions, they're not going to be answering. They're not even going to answer your calls because they've got too much work to do. But if you're reasonable, maybe an email is a lot better, because then they can answer it when they get the time. But if the public guardian is the conservator, they're able to place the person in a state-approved facility. Not easily. They have to fight for those too, but they have a little bit more clout than what you do. So if the hospital is saying, we're going to be discharging them, sometimes a public guardian might be a better way to go. There's a lot less stress for the family, and you can be a family member, a parent, a brother, sister, whatever. And those are the pros. The negative aspects are you have less involvement with the recovery process. You have no control over the medication. Remember, the powers given to you as a conservator is to approve or disapprove treatment, placement, and medication. Now, the public guardian will listen to you, but they have the final say so. If you are the conservator, you can say where your loved one's going to be placed. And by law, they have to try to abide by that. But Connie Drexler told us yesterday, right now, because of the shortage of IMDs, that's an Institute for Mental Disease, it's a lockdown treatment facility, that you have to take whatever they give you. You don't really have a choice. I would suggest everybody listening to this tomorrow morning, call your state representative, assembly person, and your state senator and tell them they have MHSA funds. And when those were voted for, that Millionaires Funds, those were supposed to go to enhancing mental health. Instead, they created all these new programs. They did not build the foundation. We need psych beds, hospital psych beds, and IMD beds for treatment for our loved ones who have serious mental illness. All the money is going to those who have mental health problems. And that's not what we want. We need IMD beds, and they're getting less and less. The state is the area that can make a difference in that. So advocate. It's really important. Okay, next slide. Should I be the conservator? The big pro that I love about everything else, you have direct contact with that doctor. If your loved one's in a treating facility and they say, you can't talk to the doctor, oh no, you're the conservator. Now, let me just give you heads up. When you place, and this is important, when you place your loved one in a treatment facility, an IMD, secure facility, board and care, whatever, they're going to have you sign a paper saying that you are giving them permission to treat your loved one. Translated to them, you're out the door. You just turned over your conservatorship to them. They're not going to confer with you for anything. Some companies, some places will, but some will not. They shut you out of the loop. I strongly suggest, and I'm not an attorney, but you can do this, handwrite on that contract any change in medicine, treatment, and placement must be expressly agreed to by you, the conservator. That is very important. Otherwise, they totally ignore you. They do not have a right to change the medicine for your loved one without your expressed permission. So handwrite that on that paper. Do not just sign those papers, and read them. Read them. It's very important. You can reject an inappropriate treatment facility, medications, or treatment places. And medications, let me tell you, keep in mind, 50% of those psychiatric doctors graduate from the lower half of their class. You want the ones that graduated the upper half of their class. If they give your loved ones, maybe they prescribe 4 or 5 psychotropic medications, you want to tell me which one's working, because you would have no idea. So you want one medication, and you want to know what that medication does. And unfortunately, it is trial and error. The family-to-family class has a great class on medications. So it's very important to know what your loved one's taking and keep that journal. The negative part about you being the conservator, your conservatee manipulates you. So you have to set boundaries. If you're not capable of doing it, let the public guardian be the conservator. The hospital's going to try and push you around before they discharge the person, because the wait for an IMD bed is something like 8 months. So they're really going to try and push them out the door. If they tell you take them home, we'll let you know when a bed becomes available. Do not take them home. The moment you take them out of that facility, they cannot get into a locked facility. You have to go from locked to a locked. Hospital and jails are locked. Your home is not locked. So even though you lock your doors, it doesn't matter. It's not considered a locked facility. So do not take them home. If you're having trouble, there are people that you can contact. You can call me and I'll give you a whole list of people. You can call for Orange County, Jim Farrell, and he will give you a list of people to talk to. Okay, next slide. Liability for the conservator. As a conservator, by law, 5358.5, and this law is important to know, you are not liable, either civilly or criminally, for anything the conservatee does, doesn't do, any bills they run up. You're not liable. And actually, they're not liable for any charge cards they get and bills that they run up, because the court's most likely taken away their right to enter contracts. So that's important to know. Do not bring out your checkbook and say, I'm going to start paying, because that's the worst thing you can do. The debts, you're not financially responsible for their debts, but you do try to get them paid off if it's possible. Contact the creditors, tell them you'll pay them 10 cents on the dollar, 25 cents on the dollar, whatever you can. And if they're willing to accept it, you want a statement from them that this debt has been paid in full. End of it. If they don't, 3 years down the road, it will be a judgment, or they can file for a judgment, and 3 years down the road, it's going to be off their credit. So don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. Next slide. The rights, Jim, yours. I'll be quiet.
You got a quick eye there, Gail. You caught that, didn't you? So, rights and responsibilities of the LPS Conservator. You as a conservator, have the power to approve or disapprove of any and all medications, the treatment that's being offered, and the placement as well. And as Gail had mentioned before, sometimes with the we find ourselves not having such a great choice when it comes to placement. The facilities are either full, or the board and cares just aren't even available. If you could even get a board and care, you'd grab it nowadays. Here in Orange County, for example, we used to have over 50 board and cares, and you could pick and choose and find the one that you felt was the most appropriate. But you do have that legal right. It's just sometimes not available to you in terms of placement. And medications, we'll be very careful about that. Maybe some individual who is serving as conservator just had preferences of medications, and if the doctor prescribed a medication they didn't like, and they refused to allow their conservatee to be administered that medication, that doctor can take you right into court in front of the mental health court judge and say, Your Honor, I'm a doctor. This is what I do for a living. I know my patients. I know medications. This is what is required for my patient. And this conservator is getting in the way without a valid reason. And I'm asking you, the court, to take away their conservatorship. And that will be done right there at that moment in time after a quick review. But you want to make sure that if there's an issue with the medication, you can say, well, doctor, I understand it might be a great medication for some people, but we had some adverse effects from it. And you can share with that doctor your concerns. And then it's up to him to make that final decision. But if it's something that might cause, let's say, a swelling of the tongue, restriction of airways, like Haldol does with some people, you'd say it's a life-threatening medication, and you'll find the doctor working with you that way. So it's always about working with the doctor, even though you have the legal right to say, no, you're not going to provide that medication. You'll not be a conservator for long if you don't have justified reason for it. So next slide, please. So conservators have the right to speak directly to the treating doctor. One of the things that I saw recently was where someone was in a treatment facility, and that treatment facility did not have a doctor. They only had a nurse practitioner. When that individual went to the director of that facility and said, the nurse practitioner is not getting the medications right, I want to talk to the doctor that nurse practitioner is working under, that did not happen. And that was a violation of law. So you have the right to speak to the treating doctor at any time. You also have the right to apply for SSI, SSDI, Medi-Cal, Medicare. You can have private insurance, Medi-Cal or Medicare, all at the same time. One of the things that you want to, well, I won't go that way. Let's move on to the next slide. So this is CalAble, and Gail's always wanted me to prepare for this slide, and I'm always finding myself a little short on that. But CalAble is a remarkable organization that was set up that works through Social Security, and it's actually a savings account, and it can work in conjunction with special needs trust. And you can actually put funds in there, and they have different modalities of, leveraging those funds over time, whether it's percentage or whether you will allow them to take those funds and take maybe a riskier way of accruing and leveraging them, maybe the stock market and so forth. Or you can say, I don't want you to risk the funds at all. Just let it grow, or just let it stay put even. But they will, you, without a CalAble account, you can't make payments for, let's say, somebody's board and care without jeopardizing their benefits. I forget exactly what the formula is, but for every dollar you spend, I think they take 50 cents away. And that's just something you want to be very careful about. But with a CalAble account, you can put your funds in there, and you can actually use the funds out of that CalAble account to actually go into housing, go into schooling, education, clothing, all the things that Social Security tells you you can't, you yourself can't use your own monies for. You can if it's diverted around through CalAble. So this website, of course, is below. As it reads, this page lists the different disability-related expenses that can be paid for without losing government funding. So you'll find a link in there up at the top that you can click on that will take you to a page and it will outline for you. As well, they have staff readily available that you can ask questions of, and it's something that should really be explored because you can save up, I think it's up to $100,000 without jeopardizing your loved one's government benefits. That in conjunction with a special needs trust. So this is just one more way that you can, provide some of the best of care for your loved one that's on Social Security or Medicare. Next slide, please. So these are some of the things that can be used for. CalAble funds will provide for education, housing, transportation, employment, health prevention, wellness, assistive technology, personal support, miscellaneous expenses. So all those kinds of expenses then are something that can be paid for through the CalAble account. Next slide. Gail, that's yours. Gail, I can't hear you.
Unmute. Is it unmuted now? Okay. You can negotiate debts. And I mentioned you can pay like 10 cents, 25 cents on the dollar for a lot of their creditors. And it really does make a difference. You can get a waiver for their school loans so that their school loans are kaput. They're gone. But that is like 3 years in the making. They have to not be in a position where they can't pay for it for 3 years. You can handle the criminal court cases, legal matters. There's a whole lot of things that you can do with that. So sometimes you need the conservatorship of the estate. Fair warning, do not ever get a guardianship in the state of California. You will be liable for anything they do, don't do, any finances, anything. A guardianship in other states might be the terminology that they give for their involuntary treatment. But in the state of California, you really don't want a guardianship. Okay, next slide. Conservatorship, you must have court approval for all invasive medical treatment. That includes if they're getting a root canal, that's considered invasive. Unless it's an emergency, that would be the only difference. I mean, appendicitis is ready to, erupt. Absolutely. You definitely just go ahead and do it. But all invasive that's kind of pre-planned, you get the court's approval for everything. And when you're in court and you're getting the LPS conservatorship, you ask the judge at that time, Your Honor, they have diabetes, heart problems, whatever. These are the things that we need. Okay, they sign off on it. So, but your conservatorship is only of the mental, not of the medical. If you need medical, go to the court and get the approval for it. And that's for the invasive. You can put topical ointment on a person. That's not a big deal. Okay, next slide. A medical emergency, non-medical emergencies is an invasive procedure and must be approved by Court 103. No experimental treatment is permitted. And request all medical issues be approved by that Department 103 unless it's an emergency. So that's really important because you don't want to be in violation of your conservatorship. Next. Conservatorship of the estate. We already went over a lot of this. You can handle court cases, negotiate debts, request student loans be discharged, ask the court to appoint you an attorney, and you have questions, you can contact that attorney. A lot of the attorneys will help you fill out the papers at the end of the year, like for Social Security or whatever, Medi-Cal, whatever. Many of them will help you do that. It's not that big of a deal, but they'll help. Next. moving right along. The conservatorship, you have direct contact with the doctor. That is the law, that 5328.5. And don't let anybody tell you anything differently. Now, when you're talking to people, you have to be cautious not to come off as a no, even though you do know the laws. So you have to say, well, when I was reading this law, this is what it said. And I've talked to the Department of Mental Health. And if I'm not talking with the doctor in 24 hours, I'm going to file a complaint and have the Department of Mental Health deal with this problem. And they will get that doctor back to you. So Linda Stone Abrams, if you see at the bottom of that, this is for Los Angeles. Give her a ring and she will see that that doctor's talking to you. Okay, next slide. Alexander?
Okay, criminal court cases. Now, if you do have a conservatorship and it's still possible that it hasn't been as effective and your conservatee is still a criminal with criminal behavior, and they, as they do, and they're, yeah, as they do, they, so he may have gone out and committed a crime and been caught for doing that. So then he could be sent to jail. And I don't know, I think they'd want to send him to the hospital for treatment, but if he gets arrested doing something, they might be sent to jail. And then you still have the LPS conservatorship on your side. The first step here, you can ask the public defender to request the DMH court linkage program to be involved in the case. And this acts kind of like a jail diversion. It opens a lot of doors so you can get them back into the right stage of treatment. Another option we have here, Los Angeles has a MIST and a FIST. So these are jail alternatives, jail diversion programs. Misdemeanor is your MIST program, and they'll be treated like they're incompetent to stand trial. FIST is the same thing, it's just a felony trajectory. The criminal court does have the first right for placement for treatment. So if you wanted to have them sent to a place that you selected, the criminal court is going to supersede that decision, that determination. And if they are in jail, and now I guess this is if they could be in jail with or without the conservatorship, but if you haven't gotten the conservatorship, you sure want to try to petition to get one, and request it's a treating doctor who initiates the series of events, and he will initiate with a public guardian. So you can request, if you speak with a treating doctor, that they'll do that for you.
Okay. Alexander, may I just make a comment? I'm asking y'all to call your state assembly people and your state senators. There is a law that's coming up, and it will be in effect in January if we're not careful. Contact them and tell them what they want to do is take all the people who are in state hospitals and discharge them. And take the people from the jail who have a misdemeanor incompetent to stand trial, that's a MIST, or a felony incompetent to stand trial, a FIST, and put them in the state hospitals. I would contact them and I'd be very adamant. You don't want that to happen. And you want them to start building more treatment facilities and quality treatment facilities. Because this is unacceptable. I mean, they keep taking away what we have to help people get on the road to recovery. So your advocacy is what will make a difference. So please call them on Monday morning and give them those requests. We need IMD beds, we need hospital beds, and do not discharge LPS people from the hospitals, state hospitals, and put the MIST and the FIST in there. That's wrong. They need treatment too, but then build a building for them and treat them. Okay, next. I'm sorry.
Well, that goes to, like we said earlier, you want to be involved. And so don't just speak with the staff at the facility where your loved one is living. You want to try and contact the people in government, your county government, state government, and let your voice heard, share your experiences, and also your kind of your intentions and your hopes. All right, this slide, possible treatment programs. The LPS Conservatorship, that's the main focus of this course. Highest level of care, that's this one. It's more intensive. It's kind of the big one, the big gun. And yeah, it is to mandate medication. Highest level of care, you can be confined under LPS conservatorship. You lose a lot of rights. But it's the whole purpose of a conservatorship is to restore the person to what they were before they became ill, and you want to restore them to a better state of health. We also have an AOT. That means assisted outpatient treatment, and it's a little lower level of care. You do not have you do not have LPS and AOT at the same time. AOT can refer you to conservatorship, so this is a better place to start. It's a good way that someone's going to be very involved. You'll have a case manager, and then you'll have meetings during the week, regular meetings. You'll be very involved in treatment during the week, and hopefully you might be able to still achieve some kind of employment. And then we have the full service program, which may be a little more intensive than AOT. I'm not sure if you want to look at the order here, if you want to pay any mind to the order, but you've got full service program, which they will attend to housing. They will attend to housing, your psychiatrist, anything that you need, any services. You should expect them to provide just about everything. That's housing, meals, all your basic necessities, food, clothes, shelter. Full service program is glad to be of assistance. They're glad to do all that for everybody. Does anybody want to add anything?
Nope, you did a nice job. Thank you.
Okay, then medications. Good, medications. Okay, you want to know all the medications they're taking, because usually a person takes an antipsychotic and then they may have a mood stabilizer. Not everybody, but the antipsychotic, mood stabilizers, anti-anxiety a lot of times. A lot of those can be typically as needed. Some of them are routine, and then some of them are just when they start to recognize and they want to learn on their own to see that an episode is coming on. So that's about the medications. Side effects are important, and record this. If you have your journal, that's the place where you want to keep all this, keep track of everything. Research your medications. You can know beforehand possible side effects. You can know what its intentions, what it's intended to treat. These are for your medications. Side effects, treatment, how much to take. A lot of medications have their own kind of like the Haldol. You have to watch out for the side effects. Clozaril. There's a blood test. So that's something you'd want to know. Like if you're prescribed Clozaril, then every so often, I don't know if it's weekly or monthly, they require some kind of like a diabetes test. And keep in mind that we have a goal in mind. We want the best medication, something that's going to be effective, treat the symptoms. And these medications are supposed to promote clarity of mind. They should achieve clarity of mind. And then if you have side effects, you want to try to eliminate as many as possible. Finding medications that still work for you, that don't have all these side effects. And one medication may work for somebody, but everyone's different, and it doesn't work for everybody. Unless anybody wants to add anything.
Yeah, I'd like to pitch in and add something to that. One of the really great apps that I've stumbled over is called, the address is drugs.com. So you can go up on the internet to drugs.com or look for drugs.com as an app, and it lists every known medication made, tells you what the side effects are, all the detailed information that one would ever want to know about any medication out there. So I have found this to be very useful in understanding what these medications are supposed to be achieving, what they were designed for, what kind of side effects to expect out of them. And I think it's just one way in terms of this first sentence up here, or not a sentence, but know all your medications. Side effects, dosages, drugs.com will be very, very instrumental in helping you to achieve that. I just wanted to add that in.
Thank you. Guideline for medication. What we want to try and do is, if you had this in school, there was a scientific method, and that's where you were going to we're going to say that we want the medication to work a certain way, and so that's our test. Now we're going to predict that hopefully this medication will behave as desired. And so you can journal this and then observe the effects of it, and hopefully they're the desired effects. But it's important to remember the rule is one at a time, one variable, one component at a time. And so that's when you're changing, you have what you want to change, and then try this one at a time. And as you're doing this one at a time, find a medication that works best for one of your symptoms. And once you've managed some of these symptoms or alleviated, then go on to the next medication and try to add another medication for maybe the mood stabilization, and just don't do too much all at once. And do record this in your journal. I think I did it. I just about did that one. On to 28.
Yeah, I'll jump in here. So basically, they're talking about formulary for medications. If a medication is not listed in the insurance profile, request your treating doctor to write a formulary to request a new medication. Ask the treating doctor if they have free samples to try in regards to a new medication, and seek the medications that help with serious mental illness. We don't, necessarily think that something for mild depression is going to always, be sufficient at all. So we want to work with your doctor in this sort of way, and then do not settle for just okay. You want your loved one back to their old self. You want to help them to gain the best clarity of mind and functionability with the fewest side effects. But you work with your doctor, again, even if the medication is not listed in the insurance company's profile, you work with your doctor to see if that's something that could be achieved. Next slide. So placed in a conservatorship and treatment facility, ICD, which is Intensive Care Division of Department of Mental Health, evaluates and suggests where the person should be placed. Again, this is Los Angeles kind of profiles that I'm reading. Tour every facility and ask questions. As a conservator, by law, your request for placement facility must be honored as best as possible. And of course, as Gail has intimated previously, that's not always possible. The best placement facility may not be available. We just are not having the facilities available to us anymore as we once had. You want to write on every contract your express written permission must be given for any change in medications, treatment, or placement. So you've here in Orange County, we would contact our CAT team. Now that's changed. Actually, we are going to call OC Links. If anybody in Orange County needs that, you can email me on that. OC Links will arrange for the CAT team if they determine that your loved one needs to go into the facility. Then as you go in to sign the release so that they can treat, you take, and I love Pentel, the little tiny micro points. And they hand that to me and I set it on their counter and I just start writing away in little tiny print. And they go, what's he doing? What's he doing? And I'm just writing away like crazy. And I'll be with you in just a minute. And I'm adding into it, as Gail had mentioned before, that I'm not signing away my rights as a conservator for them to treat without my advanced permission in the first place. However you want to word that, use your own statements, but you're not relinquishing your rights as a conservator to them. You're simply saying they may, in fact, treat your loved one with medications, but it has to be cleared through you first. Okay, so next slide. So placement and treatment via hospital. The hospital request for intensive care division, ICD, to evaluate conservative for placement. Again, out here, it's the CAT team that does that. Sometimes even telecare will determine if placement's appropriate or not. The person can only be transferred from a lockdown facility to another lockdown facility. Sometimes you'll have somebody in a place like MHRC that for whatever reasons, they determine that person really is not appropriate for their level of services. They feel that individual might need a more intensive care of treatment, and so they will transfer them to another locked facility, another hospital. The Institute for Mental Disease, called IMD, is a lockdown facility where the hospital will first discharge the patient. As the patient improves, they might skip the IMD and be discharged to an enhanced residential housing. Here in Orange County, we refer to those as step downs, which is a secure treatment facility. I think we've changed that name again here in Orange County. So you want to know, let me just pause for a second. Is your loved one on conservatorship? Are they dealing with a dual diagnosed issue? So the reason I ask that, if they have, let's say, a methamphetamine a problem, and they also have a mental health problem, and they're going to be transferred out of the hospital to a step down, which is a little bit lower of care, but also, a treatment facility. You want to know if they have any problems with drugs in those facilities. There are some that I don't know how they are today, but in the past that I have experienced that have more drugs inside the facility than what you'll find on the streets. And to put somebody in that kind of a situation that is trying to get off of drugs is just an absolute disaster. So check things out before you allow somebody to be transferred. Find out about that facility, contact them, ask them if they have any drug problems in there, ask them how they're, if your loved one is co-occurring and so forth. So let's go to the next slide. I'll beat that one to death. It's really, there we go. So treatment and placement via jail. Generally, it will be in a state hospital like Patton or Metropolitan. I've spoken at length with some of the people in Metropolitan only because they used to have a NAMI support group there, and now it's no longer a NAMI support group. It's just a support group, and I haven't been there actually for quite some time. But boy, I'll tell you, if your loved one has committed a felony and they're trying to get them stabilized and move them out of the jail into a place like Patton or Metropolitan so they can stabilize to hold them accountable for their crime. Just know that these facilities are full. Metropolitan usually has, for an example, up in Norwalk, has an easy 400 people waiting list just to get in. So they'll probably, your loved one, if they're going to be placed into a state hospital, probably is going to be Patton or one of the others. I forget the third one that's further north. It's quite a drive. Next slide. So,
Jim, is Patton, is there a Napa? Could that be?
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't been involved with that one. The only one I've been involved with is Metropolitan. I've never felt the need to know exactly where the other ones are located. I just understood that they were further north up in Northern California.
It may be a state facility.
Sure.
Probably.
So anyway, the normal movement through treatment facilities is you have a IMD, which is a Institute for Mental Disease. It's a lockdown facility. From there, they can be transferred through to down to an enhanced residential housing that is a secure facility. And they can be also then moved down to a boarding care, which would be the least restricted because they're not locked. They're pretty much free to come and go as they choose. Some of them, if you haven't had an experience with boarding cares, will only take you if you're a conservator, or only take you, your loved ones, if you're going to allow for them to go into a outpatient, hospital outpatient program and so forth. So you'll have to explore those. But from a boarding care, you just remember that you must go from the hospital, you must go from a lockdown hospital or jail to another lockdown facility. You go sideways on that. You can't go to a lesser level and back up again to a higher level again. So if a conservative may skip a facility and go to a less restrictive facility as they improve, so they can skip a facility and go to a less restrictive facility as they improve in their recovery. So it's very common, in fact, for like here in Orange County, excuse me, I should run for water in a moment. When they come out of someplace like MHRC, Royal, Mission Viejo, a lot of times they're not going to be going to a step down. They're going to go directly into a boarding care if one is made available. And sometimes because they're not made available, they try to coerce you into taking them into a sober living facility or a other type of facility. But you want to find something that's appropriate for their care. You as a conservator will be asked to get involved, even though it's their job primarily. Next slide. And you know what? I have to apologize. I think I just stole Alexander's slide. Alexander, you just yell at me if I missed that, okay? Say, hey, Jim, that's mine. So apologize. And I'm the one that created the page markers, right? Yeah. So anyway, Dr. Alec, I'll let you take this one if you like.
Oh, did I just have the one? I thought usually I have like 4 or 5 together.
Yeah, well, yeah, you did, and I don't know how I'll just go ahead and do this. Anyway,
it's important as a conservator that you do have to follow directions, and you do have to have the right intentions in mind. You've got to be reasonable. You've got to listen to all the advice that you're given. The doctor is going to be the ultimate decider, I suppose, something like that. So if you've got to do things right and follow the rules here, and then otherwise it is possible that they can remove you as conservator. Maybe you decided to place your loved one at home and take him out of treatment and thought, well, it's too intensive and I can't agree with everything. It's possible that there's still oversight in this case, and the treating doctor can defer the responsibilities back to the public guardian. And the public guardian's always there, and they can always be the conservator. You might want to add something. Does that cover it?
Covers it.
Great. Next slide. Alexander?
Conservatee loss of rights. What happens this is what the conservatorship does. What happens when the conservatorship starts on day one? The judge makes his announcement that certain disabilities are imposed. You lose the right to decide where you live. But usually, I think most people will be in the hospital. And they'll be inpatients as the conservatorship is granted, and so they already kind of lost that. That's not a new one, but you lose your right to the DMV driving your car. You lose the right to enter contracts. It used to be that you'd lose the right to vote, but I guess I heard that they may not take away that right to vote anymore.
Yeah, they cannot. That's a federal law now. They cannot take away your right to vote.
Oh, so that's been a change. And yes, medication. The primary purpose of the conservatorship is to require the conservatee to take the medication, because the medication is supposed to cure most of the conditions. More permanent restrictions there is right to shoot and possess guns. This may be federal as well, but even at admission, even prior to conservatorship, and it just reoccurs with conservatorship that this prohibition, firearm prohibition, guns, firearms, it's no less than 5 years, and you're not allowed to possess or shoot the guns. And then, well, as to the loss of rights, they can. There's one point that the public defender can request if your conservatorship lasts for a full year, the public defender can every 6 months, no more than every 6 months, request some of these rights can be reinstated, the right to enter contracts, and then as a conservatee improves and is no longer in a locked facility, the right to determine where to live can be reinstated, and so forth. 35, slide 35. Thank you. Reinstate rights of conservatee rights. So to reinstate, it is a period of every 6 months. The maximum is like one every 6 months. And let's take, for example, the right to drive a car. There's a process here. It begins when the conservatee has improved and they are able to handle the responsibilities of operating a vehicle. Then, and the conservator would observe this and be in agreement. The conservator would write a letter to the doctor saying that they should be evaluated for their driving privilege. And the doctor should agree with this, but he's got to make his own decision independently. And he has a form. Oh, let me show you this form. This is the form for the doctor. We have this is from this booklet. Remember our publication, the Department of Mental Health publication? And they have a form here at page 43, it looks like. There's on 43. So it's just real simple. The doctor just writes his name on it, and then he basically his signature. He prints his name and maybe a little statement, and that's from the doctor to the court. When the public defender will request a hearing from the court, and you present this form as evidence, and to the judge, it should be sufficient to reinstate his or her or his or her now or something right to drive. And then once, so the court's approved it, and then it still goes to approval from the DMV, and the court, I mean, sometimes it's getting complicated here, but the court approves it, and then either the court did or didn't take the right away. I mean, even if the court says that you don't have the right to do it, sometimes the DMV doesn't take action, but then the DMV will take action and restore your license, and they could even go through the DMV safety office and conduct another evaluation. So it's the one from the doctor after your one that you've done as conservator, and then there's evaluation possibly from the Department of Motor Vehicles. So all that's just to get the right to drive a car. The others are a little easier. If you want to reinstate your right to enter contracts, just like this, conservator request court reinstate right to enter contracts. There's a hearing for that, and I guess the hearings come from the public defender. So your public defender representing the conservatee makes the request of the court, and it's really not very involved. It's a quick little
Hearing. Hello.
Okay, I think I'm ready for the next slide. Renewal of conservatorship. Okay, to renew the conservatorship, this again is we're going back to court and we're having a hearing, scheduling a hearing. The conservatorship is a 12-month term, and then at about 9 months, you want to begin your renewal process. You'll need a couple of things. You need a doctor's declaration, and well, it's a lot of this should be provided to you, but the court doesn't necessarily provide everything. Just like the court may not tell the DMV to suspend your license. The court it's I guess it's their own prerogative. If they go through the paperwork to suspend the license, they don't always necessarily. And with the renewal of conservatorship, that you should get something in the mail, a notice that with the court date attached to it, and also a list of your requirements. So we'll need a doctor's. You have your treating psychiatrist. He makes a statement. He'll produce a statement for you. And then you also need a secondary, maybe a secondary psychiatrist, psychologist, some kind of a treating, there's a standard. It may have to be a psychologist or a psychiatrist. And so they also write. So you just need these two statements. And I believe with the two statements, then that's what's needed to renew the conservatorship.
Okay. Can I add something here at the end of your?
Yeah.
Okay, so just for Orange County, in terms of renewing it, sometimes families really don't know where to go, or they start this search trying to find the necessary forms that are required, especially with the courts being locked because of the COVID pandemic issue. So one of the things that the Orange County Public Guardian has done is they do two things. They send out an email, and it primarily has all the forms that you'll need for the renewal process attached to that. They send it to their own mailing list. They send it to me, and I send it out to my mailing list. And as well, they're not only can the person get those forms, they're a little tricky to get through sometimes. So they're actually having Zoom meetings now with the Public Guardian's office that teaches them how to fill those forms out and explain what's required of them. So if any of you in Orange County area are not sure where to go for forms or when the next training class is, the Public Guardian's office always notifies me. So I'll be sure to get you in touch with all those documents and training, okay? All right, next slide. Okay.
As mine gravely disabled, when you do go back to court, you do have to have be considered gravely disabled. If the person's not contesting, then the doctor can just write that on their doctor's declaration, and it's pretty much a go. If they are contesting, then you have to show that their basic needs of food, clothing, and shelter, they're still not able to cover for that. Now, there is a little bit difference when you first get the conservatorship and they say that they're gravely disabled, but if somebody else provides it, then they're not considered, provides the food, clothing, and shelter. They're not considered gravely disabled. When you go back for the renewal, of course, somebody's been providing that. So they don't get a little anal about that part. But the doctor does have to put that in the declaration. If they don't, and they only have to cover one, food, clothing, or shelter, but you do need it. Refer to everything as a safety or a health risk. That keeps the problem, well, I'm going to go do this, live here, get this food. It keeps that problem from taking place. So that's your big thing on renewing your paperwork. And let me just go back to what Alexander was saying. The court is supposed to send you the packet, but if they do not, it is incumbent on you to call and get that packet. And that's very important. Remember, you need 2 doctors. You can do it with 1 doctor if they're not contesting. But if you get to court and they change their mind, you're up a gump stump. But you can continue the case and ask for the second doctor's opinion. Next slide. You have the court hearing. They will have what they call a court setting. And the conservatee will tell the judge, I either want a court hearing or a jury trial. And we heard from Connie yesterday, court hearings used to be like within a few days. Now they're taking 2 to 3 months. Jury trials are taking much longer. So sometimes they're still under that conservatorship until those court hearings can be heard. Next slide. Okay, California, this is really important. This is probably one of the most important things when you have somebody under the LPS conservatorship. And I sat in one of Jim's classes years ago, and one person got up and they said, I've got a conservatorship. I've had it for a whole year. It's done me absolutely no good. My loved one doesn't take medication. They don't do anything they're supposed to do. They're driving me crazy. Basically, you have rights as a conservator, and really one of your big rights is to 5150 your loved one when it's necessary. There is a way to do it. Under the California Welfare and Institutions Code 5358.5 this time, when you deem it's necessary, let's say they go off their medication for a week, don't wait for them to get to harm to self and harm to others or decompensate to become gravely disabled again. Your powers and your responsibility is to keep their recovery in a forward momentum direction. So you do not want to wait for them to decompensate, because one is going to take longer in treatment. Their brains deteriorated more. You don't want that to happen. And you want them to continue their road to recovery. So you can get, in Los Angeles, we have a particular contact person, Marion Brown. If you need that, there's the number and all. You contact her and you say, my loved one's not taking their medication. I need a quick trip to the hospital so that they can give them the medication. They can drop them, take them to the hospital against their will, get them started on their medication, and they're good to go. Sometimes they might need a little R&R for the weekend, but the longer you wait, the more they'll end up staying in the hospital. So do it soon. Don't wait for them to get so ill. Jim has an access in Orange County for the very same thing. Jim, you want to tell us about that?
Well, I'm not sure what you're referencing to, but if your loved one needs to go into the hospital, again, it's OC Links. If you call OC Links is comprised of a group of individuals that are college graduates. They're smart, they're intelligent. The potential number of links for services for a behavioral health care agency are immense. So they actually go through a very intensive amount of training that has not only evolved from connecting families to resources, but it has evolved into the hub for the entire community. if your loved one's not taking medications, you just would call OC Links. You don't need to call the CAT team. They will contact the CAT team for you. They'll assist you in every way that is needed for that. Okay?
That is probably, I know you fought for everything along the way, helping your loved one get on the road to recovery. In LA, when we call Marion Brown, she's been assigned to that. She understands the law. She can get the outreach, triage group, whatever it is, to go get your loved one and get them back to the hospital. And sometimes they'll go out there and the person will take their medication. But a lot of people are on the injections. So that's a great help. It does make a difference. Okay, next slide. The Welfare and Institution Code, remember, you don't need, when you do that 5358, you don't need to have somebody come and do gravely disabled, say that they're gravely disabled. The court has stated they're gravely disabled. Nobody can go and say that they are not gravely disabled unless they go to court and petition the court to say that person is no longer gravely disabled. So you don't need an evaluation. That's the nice thing about that law. The conservator, basically the law states you can request police transport to a hospital for treatment. And just keep in mind, when you're doing the medication, if your loved one refuses medication, if they're in an IMD, the IMD cannot force the medication. But by the time they've gone to the IMD, they've been on it, they don't have a problem. Only the hospital can force the medication for them to take it. So you want to do that. But now let me just say something on the medication. If they're not wanting to do that medicine, if they're telling you it makes me this, it makes me that, listen to them, because they're the ones taking it. And if they're having trouble with it, try a new medication. And I'm going to just make a few comments about medication. You don't want to give them medication, Jim had mentioned this earlier, for somebody who has a little mental health problem. I'm a little depressed today. Your kids or your loved ones have serious mental illness, so they need medication that's commensurate with their illness. Some of them are Invega, Latuda, Vraylar, Clozaril. And I am not a doctor, so I've just been dealing with this for so long. If you give a person Zyprexa, in all these years, I've only heard one person who really got clarity of thinking. I mean, they get a little bit clear, but you want them to get a lot of clarity of thinking. And with the Zyprexa, it has a tendency to blow people up like a balloon. They're not going to be happy, nor will they continue taking that medication. Some of the other ones, Depakote, Ativan, they'll give them these medications and it really isn't doing squat for them. So take that family to family class, especially that class on medications, know the medications, read about medications, ask questions, call the pharmaceutical. They'll tell you everything, but keep in mind, they're touting their medication. So, okay, next slide.
Okay,
Chip?
let's talk about what happens when a conservative goes AWOL. Yesterday I was choking up a little bit about that whole conversation. Years back, Gail said, Jim, I have a suggestion. We've got this great, I guess he was a public investigator, and he would actually be somebody you could hire to go out and track down somebody that had disappeared, and he would lecture. He would come to your meetings and he would lecture about missing persons. Unfortunately, when I tried to find him, I found out that he had in fact had moved out of state. So I did a lot of searching for an alternative on the internet, and I discovered outpostforhope.org. It's a individual back in Florida, the other side from you, Gail, whose sister years ago was bipolar, as I recall, decompensated, and they had no idea where she was. By the years that went by, I think it was like 4 or 5 years, they found her finally, after so many nights of driving the streets and days driving the streets, handing out missing persons flyers. And, just recently I've talked to a family that's going through the same nightmare, and they just found their daughter in jail out of state. And myself and others are going to be working with them. But there's so many missing persons that are never found. So how do we go about finding them? What do you do? Go to outpostforhope.org, outpostforhope.org, excuse me, and everything you'd ever want to know about finding a missing person, how to file for them, what kind of databases are involved, it's all there. But you want to give a copy of your conservatorship paper to the police. You call your local police department. In fact, I will tell you, there was one family that was referred to me from, Arizona, I believe it was. The son had multiple degrees from the university, and he was living out here somewhere around Disneyland on the streets. I was asked to see if I could help. And the mother was trying to file a missing persons report with the Anaheim Police Department, and they refused to do that. So I then went to a chief of police that I knew at that time down in Tustin, who then contacted them and said, "Hey, bud, it's the law. You have to file that report whether they're calling you from out of state or not." When that report on anyone that's disabled, whether it's mental health or any kind of an illness, serious illness, when they go missing on the streets, there's not a waiting period involved. The police are required to immediately start searching in a known area if there is one, doing their best to get all the information required and actually, driving. And, all the police cars nowadays have computers. In fact, I was blown away that the Westminster PD not only has all their computers, but they have servers in the trunk of the car. They're like a mobile Google. It's amazing how advanced they've become. So you want to get all of their information to them, and just know that it says any person with a serious mental illness goes to the top of the missing persons list. That's exactly what I'm talking about. They don't have to be under conservatorship for that to take place. So it's really heartbreaking. I couldn't think of something worse if you knew your loved one was really in a state of psychosis. This gentleman from Arizona that was missing, Gail had a police officer come to one of her meetings once. And I'm not pulling up his name out of my memory banks at the moment, but I was through Gail actually able to contact him, and he was trying to find this individual that was missing up in the Los Angeles area. They eventually connected to him and are working on trying to get him help. Here's somebody with several degrees in biomedical engineering, for Pete's sake, living on the street. People are looking at him and looking down the nose at that dirty bum over there. And he's got more brains in his head than half the people on the street put together. So you can't judge somebody by what they look like. And all I can say is that you need to go to the missing persons website out there is outpostforhope.org. I'll learn to talk here in a little while. Anyway, let's go on to the next slide.
Can I just say something on the missing person?
All I'd like to say, Gail, be my
Yeah.
guest.
When your loved one is missing, file that missing persons report, whether you have an LPS conservatorship or not. But something else which you might consider doing this, and this is for everybody in the family. Take a cotton tip, take a swab inside the mouth, put it in an envelope. Do not seal the envelope. You want it to dry out. If you seal it, it might create mold or bacteria. It's a good thing to do for everybody in the house and keep it in a special place. If somebody should be missing all of a sudden and you don't know, you've got their DNA and they can compare it to the DNA on the missing persons bank, because they find a lot of people and they're John Does, Jane Does, they don't know. And this way, at least they could do it. But I mean, my husband and I have done it for each other. And it's a good thing for y'all to do it for yourselves either. And for all your children, it's not a bad thing to do. Okay? Next, oh, that's your slide, leaving the state.
That's
Go
okay.
ahead.
So just remember that the Lanterman Peters Short Law, the Welfare Institution Code, is a law specific, for California. You must have the court's permission to leave the state if you're on a conservatorship. You can't just take off. The court needs to be aware of where you're going and when you're coming back. California presently does not have a reciprocity with other states. So just because somebody's on a conservatorship here doesn't mean that the California agencies have the right to just demand that they be returned to us. And that is a challenge. There's so many people that take off. They refer to them. It's not nice to put acronyms on people, but they refer to them as frequent flyers because they have just some kind of a burning desire to take off. And the families that I've talked to have gone through so much just trying to get them to come back or to get them back down here from some other location. So what Gail said about the DNA is very critically important. It's all there on the website, in fact, Gail, what to do and so forth. They used to have a video on there, and it was the most, they actually had a corner on there and the whole thing. It was extremely educational. I don't know why they removed it from the website, but people tend to freak out when they tell you that they have a missing person, and you're saying, well, get their hair brushed, get something. We need to get, file a report, get the DNA sample and so forth. And you need to take it seriously because there are literally tens of thousands of Jane and John Does buried in cemeteries across the United States whose families never have closure. So that's why the DNA is so critically important. We need to change our laws too. We need to improve our laws in regards to getting people back. Next slide. Alexander?
We're almost at the end. Well, I want to thank everybody for attending today. Your determination, your endurance to help your loved one is really commendable. And here's a little encouragement. A little inspiration. There's a Navy SEAL model. When you think you've had enough, you can still give 10% more. And that's a good one because we know we rely on our Navy SEALs to do jobs that are harder than a job anybody else could do. So yeah, it's a tough road. It's a tough road, but hopefully in the end, you're gonna find it very rewarding, and hopefully you'll get to the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Also, good advice is you are taking care of somebody else, but you've got to keep yourself, because if you don't take care of yourself first, you're not able to help anybody else. So don't forget about yourself. You're very important and you do matter. Please consider. Okay, next slide. Slide 44. Please consider donating. We're a production of NAMI Urban LA and the DMH, but we come from NAMI, so please donate. And when you do donate, we'd like you to include here, I have a note at the bottom of this slide here. If you could include that it's for the LPS Conservatorship Program, for the conservatorship mentoring, that would probably work too. So if we just ask you to include a little memo along with your payment there for so we can keep bringing this to you and bringing this to others, and we just want to keep helping as much as we can. And good luck to everybody. I think now it's off to questions and answers.
I'd just like to add that, if you're in the Los Angeles area, I strongly urge you to consider joining NAMI Urban Los Angeles. It's a great organization. And I'm just so appreciative of all that they've been doing. Just awesome. Thank you.
I'm impressed with the whole group.
Recording stopped.
Okay. All right, questions? Araceli?
Yes, so we have Sheila. She has raised her hand if she wants to unmute.
Hi, I have a question. My son is currently under conservatorship. He had assaulted me and went to Twin Towers, and he's now at Metropolitan State Hospital. My concern is what would happen if he went AWOL and I needed to renew my conservatorship?
That's a tough one if he goes AWOL. First of all, my questions are always what medication is he on? That's really important. If he's not getting clarity of thinking, I would go back to the drawing board on that medications and work on the doctor to get him medications that have clarity of thinking. Unfortunately, it's trial and error at this point to find the right medication for him. And then if you have to add something, you do. But if he goes AWOL, you file for the missing persons, go to court, let them know that he is AWOL. You would like to continue the case because you filed the missing persons report, and they'll let you probably continue that for maybe about 3 months. So you have a little bit of time. Now, if the public guardian is the conservator, they will only do it for 60 days unless there's extenuating circumstances. So that's, and you just say a lot of prayers.
He was on the correct medication, and when he was on his own through FPS or FSP, he went off his medication, and we didn't know until the assault happened. He just decompensated so quickly.
Oh,
so there was no warning at all. Absolutely.
Put him on the shot. Can they do that?
Well, they did when he was in Twin Towers. That's how they started, because they couldn't put him on clozapine because of the blood tests.
Yeah, I would do something. And how's the shot doing now? Working pretty well for him?
It's not the best for him. The clozapine is really the answer for him. But it's going to be a long recovery.
I'm wondering if he can do the shot and a little bit of the clozapine. Talk to the doctor about that.
I have a phone call with them on Monday.
Good for you. That's my kind of person.
Because you helped me. You were my mentor.
Oh, thank you. But you're a strong lady. You really are. Everybody who goes this route, I am really amazed at what they do. And by the way, Alexander, thank you for that pot of gold. I have a pot of gold. Okay, next question.
Nobody else has raised their hand, but right now, you are welcome to unmute yourself and voice your question. I think I see Leah unmuting herself.
Oh, someone else had asked the question, so I'll let them go first.
Oh, okay.
It's in the chat.
Oh, in the chat. Okay, so Leslie, does anyone have a suggestion on how to get able to observe severe conservatorship in a lockdown hospital right now because of COVID? They aren't allowing us to go in and see the patients. I can't talk more than 2 or 3 minutes at a time. I'm having trouble knowing if there are any side effects and if she's able to understand longer conversations, etc. Any suggestions from Leslie? Oh, you can unmute yourself as well, Leslie.
Yeah. Leslie?
Yes.
Yeah. What hospital is she in? Is it a hospital or an IMD?
It's a hospital. She's in Anaheim Global Medical Center.
I'm wondering, just out of curiosity, if you could call and ask them if you can give them an iPad or something and maybe do a Zoom or a phone so that they can talk to you, as long as, they don't tend to mind as long as, a nurse or somebody is nearby so that you can talk to her. But I'm concerned if she's under the LPS conservatorship and her clarity of thinking isn't there. I first want to know.
I was listening to you talk about Zyprexa. I cannot get the doctor to, she's kind of open to clozapine, I mean, my daughter is obviously treatment resistant. We've tried other things. It doesn't, in my opinion, it has not mattered at all in her clarity of thought. She doesn't make sense after a while. You know, you can talk to her with a sentence, and that'll sound okay. But then if it goes much further, it doesn't make sense. And
Has she tried Vraylar?
no, what is that?
Vraylar, V as in Victor, Raylar. Now, from what I am hearing, and this is just what I share with you,
Okay.
I haven't had a lot of people call me back on it, but 100% of everybody who's called back said it's been a miracle drug where they hadn't had success with others before, and that includes the clozapine. I would ask the doctor to try the Vraylar, V as in Victor, Raylar. Look that one up on the internet. I mean, it's worth a try.
Anything's worth a try. Yeah. She doesn't want to do the clozapine. I don't know if she knows about the blood test or not, but my daughter, and the doctor isn't pushing anything. And she's been there 4 months, and I don't know how much longer she'll be there before she'll even be able to move to an IMD.
But the IMD can't they can offer her other medications, and maybe she'll buy into it. But it's in the hospital where you kind of force them a little bit. So I would talk but when you talk to the doctors, you kind of have to be careful because they're gods.
Right.
You can offend them so simply. But usually I found that when you say, I've been reading about this medication, what is your opinion if we try a little bit of that? And what I'll do is I will keep talking to her and give you the feedback of what I'm seeing, because I know where she should be, and I can give you the feedback and let you know what my opinion is. And what do you think if we try that? Many times, I would say 95% of the time, they're going to buy into it with you.
Okay.
So it's worth it.
I'll try again. It's so frustrating.
It is.
Yeah.
Yes. Now you can go to the CEO of the hospital and ask for another doctor.
Okay.
Area.
Great. That's good to know.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
I'm not sure if Leah wants to go up next or Irene. I believe
Irene can go first.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, my name's Irene, and I so identified with Leslie because my older son's been in the IMD for a couple of years, and once the lockdown, there was absolutely no visiting for a year, and so I couldn't see the side effects manifested, and they took away the pay phones because they were passing COVID each other, I think, all handling the same phones. And of course, with the COVID, they have to really be careful. And I just have started to be able to see him, and it's like once a month that I can go that far to go see him. And I had an extra visit this week because his brother moved into a new care home in the vicinity. And when I went to see him, he seemed so down and so difficult to communicate. And I'd had a call from his counselor last week that he was manifesting some negative, what I think are side effects. He's been in locked facilities for over 10 years, including over 5 years in Metropolitan. And he had quite a bit of function prior to, and I think we're on year 11 of the conservatorship. But it's hard to get through to the doctor in the place where he's at and talk to him directly. Plus, if it's over conference call, it's very difficult to understand. I'm always requesting, can I get this by email? Can I get this in writing? And I do get his Medicare RX EOB, so I know what he's taking. He's been back on clozapine for some time now. But some of the side effects, I believe, are going to make him hard to place, and it's getting really hard. He was calling quite frequently, and that's just in the last few weeks. He hasn't been calling as much, and it's always pretty difficult to get through to the doctors. And thank you so much about the consent that I signed. I just got one last week, and I'm going to, I've got so much going on with both my sons being in a similar diagnosis and situations that I forgot about adding the caveat of any change in treatment, medication replacement be approved by the conservator. So I'm getting that right back out to immediately as soon as I get off the call. And I don't know how to get more communication in the place where he is at now.
Eileen, you and I have been talking about him for a long time. I know about both of your boys, and you've done a remarkable, I can't believe how dedicated and how blessed they are that you're their mother. And I just mentioned that medicine, that Vraylar. I would talk to the doctor and ask him what his opinion is. If you added a little bit of that, keep what he has, Cosrin, and then just make the notes if you see a bit of a change. And the reason why, I just heard a doctor the other day say, I'm giving it to my patients and I'm telling you, I'm seeing such a major difference. I don't know, you may not, and then you may. But if it's a small amount, you can take it off if it's, not good. But if it is working for him, maybe that might be the one. They're coming up with more and more medications that people who were resistant before are now responding. And I sure would like to see him get a lot better than what he is.
I know.
So, yeah. Also,
on other medications too. He's on Haldol, propanolol.
Oh, for heaven's sakes.
Paroxetine.
You know what? Ask the court to do a medication review. When they start giving them a whole slew of medications, I don't like, that's me personally, I don't care for it because each one comes with side effects, and that's when you see people becoming zombies, depressed, drooling. I would ask the court for a medication review. Okay?
Ask the court. Okay.
Yeah. Call his public defender and tell them that you feel that he needs a medication review because it seems, in your opinion, you're just curious. There might be a bit too many medications. And let me tell you, some of these doctors they'll prescribe way over prescribe. And you don't want that. The other thing is, will they allow him a cell phone? You can get those freebie Obama phones. Will they allow him a cell phone in the facility? No. And they're saying he cannot talk on the payphone?
Well, I think they completely shut down the payphones. They do apparently have smartphones that they maintain, but they give it to the residents. They must clean them in between to make calls, so they can make calls out.
Yeah, because by law, they can restrict them on that. So at least they're doing something. Otherwise,
he was calling, that's what I mentioned. He was calling frequently, and all of a sudden I'm not hearing from him for days at a time.
Okay.
And I'm planning to call, I was planning already to call today after my meetings to request that he call me or go and give him the phone.
Sounds good. Okay.
Irene, can I jump in a second? Does your son that is taking propanolol, does he have high blood pressure?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Why are they prescribing that?
I don't remember. I'd have to look back.
Does your son have asthma?
No, he had, when he went into Metropolitan, he was for a long time diagnosed with chronic bronchitis.
Okay. my concerns then are going to apply to you. I also wanted to share with you and Leslie both that one of the things that MHRC in Orange County, which is Royale Mission Viejo, were doing is they actually brought on visiting days, the families would make reservations to let them know that they were coming, and they would then take their clients out to the side of the hospital. Around the back there's a chain link fence, and then of course they put up the huge sheets of plastic, and then both the parent and their loved ones would be wearing masks, and let them at least see, face to face with each other. Other times they were using Zoom just for visitations when you couldn't go there in person. So these are things that you might want to look at.
They're allowing visiting now.
Okay.
I have to have my vaccination card, only one visitor at a time. And they do the mask, they check your temperature, and it's 30 minutes, one visitor, no food. You can't bring any food. So that's what's been going on since April. So I've been able to see him in that way. Yeah.
Okay, and then also, Leslie, at Anaheim Global, they have a behavioral health director. You can call the hospital and ask to speak to the behavioral health director and ask them if you could, as Gail recommended, maybe bring in an iPad or something so that you can have some communication with your loved one there. All right, I'm done with that. Thank you.
Next question.
Well, that one, I just want to add something before we leave, that because they're coming out with these new medications, and the new ones are supposed to be developed to be as improvements. So I mean, yeah, there's some hope, but that's how. I mean, it's supposed to be improving, and so now there's this advertisement, Caplita, or I don't know how you would say Caplita or something.
Oh, I've seen that one.
CATPLA or something like that. I haven't heard anything about that, but if you do, let us know.
We're interested in the feedback, but this one's going to be coming out. I don't know if you've already tried everything. I'd suggest if you've already tried a lot of different things.
That's one to look at for sure.
Hi, Gail. I have some questions for you. I don't know if you got my questions. This is Busy speaking.
Go ahead.
Okay. The first question I had for you was that what do you do when FSP doctors refuse to sign a document for conservatorship renewal? I've had that experience some years ago when my son was in FSP. The doctor did not sign the document. They refused to sign it. And now it's in step down, and very soon, I'm sure they will say he needs to go into transitioning, which is like FSP. If the same thing happens, what do I do? That's my first question.
I would call Dr. Ruiz, R-U-I-Z.
Okay, hold on a sec. Hold on. Let me bring it down. I have my laptop here.
Okay, I don't have her phone number at my fingertips. It is in the resource section of the LPS paper. But if you tell me, I'll look it up and I'll get it to you, okay?
Please do email me that. Thank you.
I'll tell you, check your spam, because a lot of my emails, I suspect, are going to your spam.
Yeah, Kim was talking about that with me. I will check, and then I will email you. You can click reply on that for accessibility's sake for me. And thank you for your help. I appreciate you. Okay. My next question, sorry, please. My second question is that I'm very disappointed that there's nothing for those people who are recovering. Now, Benjamin has been through a lot. And recently, I know you have an idea of what I just finished battling with. Now, very soon they will say it's going to go into transitioning house, maybe FSP or so, I don't know. My question to you is that, is there provisions, housing provisions for my son after leaving step down, if I want him to be in boarding care or any private housing that I can rent for him. What do you know about housing provision for those who are recovering? That's my question.
I am not that well versed in it. I'm really not. I wish I was, and it's getting less and less. I mean, it's getting far more difficult to get these places because as the cost of living goes up, a lot of them are having to close. I mean, what they want you to feed a person on and house them on, their taxes go up, the food goes up, everything goes up, but they don't pay them more. And it's a really difficult situation. Like I say, you've got to call your senator and your assembly person and let them know they've got to stop this. They have to make a difference. There is money. That MHSA funding, they have plenty of money sitting aside that they're not using. And when they, legislators, when they see a pocket of money, they go, oh, I can use it for that trip to the Bahamas. But you really have to call them and you have to complain.
Okay.
Because it is unfair what they're doing.
Okay, trust me, I will do that. But the problem I have is getting the information of the senators or the state representative. So that means I have to search for it or know the name, which that would take me a long time. But I will do something if I know how to get hold of them.
Get Kim to help you with it. Kim will be able to help you with that. Okay?
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thanks so much, Gail.
Oh, you're welcome. You're doing a great job.
I just wanted to add something to that. And in terms of the FSP the doctors not wanting to sign the renewal, I will share with you that a few years back down the road, the FSP out here in Orange County signed it. I had one doctor, of course, was treating our son, and she had a secondary doctor within the same FSP provide the second signature, based on their communication with each other, and they collaborated on that. So I wouldn't understand why an FSP, would refuse that. If it's telecare, I would say that their corporate office is somebody you might want to reach out to if you find yourself in that or anybody else finds themselves in that position. But they should have signed that. There's no excuse not to have signed that. Their doctor should have signed it.
I agree.
Is that
Okay,
everybody?
thank you.
Next question. Yes.
Hi. Hello. Can
Hi.
you hear me? Okay. Sorry. I have a question. So I'm a conservator already, and I have a brother at a facility, and since November 2020, towards the end, my brother has been at this facility, and the doctor has not communicated with me. And I'm not quite.
You're kind of going far away and it's ringing instead of us being able to hear you. Hello?
Hello? Hello?
You might have lost
If
your
I saw
Someone.
I think she's having Wi-Fi connection.
and I didn't mean to because I literally. Oh, sorry.
Yes, I think.
Hello?
Yeah, we
Hear
can
me?
hear you now.
Okay. So I was saying how he's been there since 2022. I'm not quite sure I didn't mean to do this, but I know Gail has talked about signing some documents that give away my rights as a conservator or something like that, which I didn't intend to do.
Yeah. Can you hear me? Because I think I know what your question is going to be. Can you hear me?
So now the doctor has not talked to me directly. I've been in. Yeah, I could hear you. Okay. I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. I think
Yes, I can hear you.
what you're asking is the
I can't
doctor
hear
would
anything
be
over there. It's kind of bad.
Yeah, I don't know what the background noise is, but write a statement, take a copy of your conservatorship, only a copy, don't give them the original, and take it to the hospital. That statement that they are not allowed to treat, give medication or anything without your express written permission. And that you are, and write it, you are requesting to speak with the doctor. Now, is this in LA County that we're discussing?
Yes.
Okay. If they do, and say that you expect to hear from the doctor within 24 hours. If you do not, Dr. Ruiz, R-U-I-Z, and it's in that LPS Conservatorship info paper in the resource. Look under DMH, Dr. Ruiz. Email her. It has her email, her phone number, everything. Contact.
So within 24
hours. Yeah, give 24 hours. Contact her and let her know this doctor refuses to speak with you, but fax over a copy of your conservatorship, and with that statement that they are not allowed to give medication, treatment, or anything without your express written permission. You're taking back your conservatorship.
Right.
What you're going to do. And once you've done that, and then also a note that you expect to speak with the doctor. Now, be sure when you talk with the doctor, you're very respectful and very kind.
Okay.
Flat in a lot of places, at least, you know, you're ready to kill them, but that's okay. Do your best to be nice. And just let him know what you are concerned about. You do know the list of medications he's on.
Right.
Is that?
Yes.
That's a big help. And I hope it's not a smorgasbord of medications.
What does that mean, Gail?
I hope it's not a smorgasbord, a bunch of medications. You want to.
Okay.
I get the feeling it is. Good luck. You'll never loved one to have any semblance of normalcy with a whole bunch of medications. Now, I am not referring to medications for medical, high blood pressure, diabetes.
Right.
We don't.
I know. The psychiatric ones. Right.
Exactly.
Another question I had. Can you hear me well?
I can.
There's music in the background. Sorry.
Okay. I can.
Okay. So another question I had was, usually we're in tune of like how he behaves, because the last time I went over to the hospital, he got triggered by me, and I think probably like he was kicking and did a whole scene, so like then like I go like 2 months later or whatever, and then I asked the psychologist, hey, so how's my brother doing, or how's my how is he doing? And then she's all like, oh, he's fine now. And I'm like, a month ago or 2 months ago, he wasn't fine. So it's like I don't know. I just feel like they take it very lightly, the behaviors.
In my opinion, and I'm not sure, and I haven't seen your brother, but in my opinion, they're probably over medicating him. And that's why I would want to know. I would ask, you could ask for a medicine review.
I have, yeah.
Good, okay. And I would start researching those medications. I would go for the ones that are more your Invega. I would say 85% of the people of calls back that I get from people who are doing the Invega, very pleased. 100% of the Vraylar, but I don't have the number, of people call back on that. The Tuda, over 50%, but I couldn't really say where in that. But those tend to help. The ones that I don't hear, I just don't hear people doing well on, and I'm just giving it to you, are the ones that Seroquel helps you sleep, but it doesn't really give you a lot of clarity of thinking. It will some. Zyprexa will give you a little bit of clarity of thinking, but blow you up like a balloon. Only one person out of like 15, 20 years did it help. So, keep in mind what works for one doesn't work. Nothing, just really nothing. So I would look up those medications, read about them.
He was on Invega and then Cyprexa he's allergic to.
Okay.
So I know that. When he got to this hospital, they actually gave him Cyprexa without my consent or knowledge because he just got transferred for UCLA Hospital, Harbor. And I got really upset and I was like, wow. But they wanted to calm him down and I was like, that's not anyways, but that's a different story. But he is really allergic to that. So I just want to warn people that there's allergies to medications as well, like my brother is.
Yes, there really are.
Yeah, so I know for sure Cyprexa is not good for him. And he wasn't in Vega, but
Where to find if Invega didn't cut it? Try some of those other ones.
Right. We're trying those other ones.
Good.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Before we take another question, I would just like to add in that if those of you that are asking questions, if where you're at, if you hear background noises going on, just know that those background noises sometimes will try to take over the microphone, and you'll get this cutting in and out. You can just go top left, it says zoom.us, click on that, select preferences, and then halfway down that screen that opens up, it says suppress background noise. And you can set that to auto, low, medium, or high, and it explains the different things. So that might help us in today's session if any of you are experiencing background noise where you're calling from. Okay? And you can do all that while the meeting's going on.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?
I just had a few comments to say. Coming from San Diego, we, just so people are aware, I know most of you guys are LA, but if you have issues with trying to return conservatees back to the facility, it's really, really hard in San Diego. They have paperwork to give to the police, but just know that getting an AWOL conservatee or getting the 5150 even as a conservator is just, they're very tough to work with. Also with talking to our IMDs, Crestwood and all, even if you are a conservator, you're gonna have to try a couple of times because my best friend is a conservator and they have been having a hell of a time getting Crestwood to even listen to them, even though they have letters and orders of conservatorship, so just be aware of that. What was the other thing? Oh, do you, for everyone, for Gail and the other people, do you have any issue with people cheeking meds in the IMDs? I know it can happen, but how do you guys deal with that? Because I'm cheeking like when, yeah.
Oh, that's common. That's common. They really, that's why the injections are very helpful. I've seen them where they give a person, they tell them, go use the bathroom, come back out, sit there. You're going to sit there for 30 minutes and they'll give them in a clear glass their meds and have them take their meds. But hey, they're very clever. So
also,
they really are.
Thank you. Yes?
Let me go back to the police. Sometimes you have to go above heads to get what you need.
Yep.
Sometimes you may have to go to the watch commander of the police station and always get the police cards. And then right on the back, okay, what you're telling me is you're not going to take this person even though they're very ill. Now, to go directly to the IMD, remember you have to go from a lockdown to a lockdown. So they may have to take them to the hospital, then the hospital will transfer them over to the IMD.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I understand that. I was just letting you guys know that San Diego police, even if they are decompensating and needing a new 5150, they are very reticent to do it. And what we've been doing with our conservatorship is we have we do like a request for remediation whenever people are not listening to us. Well, you have your LA County I cannot say ombudsman, and we have our San Diego, and sometimes getting attaching their like patients' rights too. If you write a huge email and send it out and fax it out, sometimes that'll make stuff happen when one person isn't willing to work with you. Also, just know we've had this huge issue in San Diego, at least with what I know. Full Service Partnership has been telling us that they will not work with people unless they're on LPS Conservatorship. Now, it may vary from what they tell person to person, but that's what they told us. They said you need the LPS before we'll even work with your loved one. So I think people should be just aware of that. And yes,
Yes, in San Diego.
I'm sorry.
Is it easy to get an LPS in San Diego?
Moderately. I mean, you have to pull teeth and you definitely have to write a lot of documents. We did it, but it's I'm just letting you know with FPS, Full Service Partnership, we reached out to them as a alternative to LPS, and they said no, not until you show us the certified letters and orders, we're not going to work with your loved one. So we had to spend, an extra 2 months getting that LPS conservatorship. So I'm just letting people know that it's hard working with FPS in San Diego, and again, it varies county to county, but y'all should be aware of that. Also, I don't know if you guys have this issue in LA, but our public conservator, we didn't get noticed when there was a TCON established. You're supposed to have relatives be noticed. They get the intent to establish conservatorship, proposed orders. We didn't get that, so I think people should also be aware of that. If the doctor's thinking about LPS, stay on top of it. Really push for them to try and communicate with you, because they didn't tell us at all that there was a TCON pending. We knew it was because we were pushy, but if we hadn't, we would have been in the dark.
I think we're very fortunate in Orange County and LA. They try their best. It's not always perfect, but at least they're trying, and that's a start.
Yeah.
Leah, I wanted to jump in here. So the question I wanted to ask is, if your family member is on a conservatorship, are you having problems getting them back into a hospital and hospitalizing them?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We've asked, but we've asked, and they said, well, no, they won't either. We'll get static on the other end, or they'll say we'll see what we can do, and then nothing will happen.
We used to have a problem in Orange County, and so.
Jim, let me just say, is she asking to go to an IMD?
No. So they were in a boarding care, and they decompensated because they were off their meds, and they needed that 5150 to go to the hospital, get stabilized, and then we would petition the court for. We actually have a document. I do not have it with me right now, but it basically is a request to move them back up to a more restrictive facility. But you need to be in the hospital to even get that process rolling, and they wouldn't take them to the hospital.
Okay, it was my mistake. I thought you were talking, they were picking them up and taking them straight to the IMD.
Oh, yeah, no, I understand lateral transfers. I understand all of that.
Go for it, Jim.
So my point was that we used to have that problem here in Orange County, and it was actually Gail that said, if they're on a conservatorship, your CAT team or crisis response teams don't have to actually do an evaluation, because the courts deem them to be gravely disabled at all times, 24/7 for that entirety of the year. Our individuals here that was in charge of the CAT team argued with that, and it wasn't until I pressed the point and said I was going to go to the courts on it that they ran to county council. Your county council in San Diego, like the county council in Orange County, determines legal situations like this. And Orange County County Council said, Jim Farrell's right. Absolutely. If they're on a conservatorship, and so in the LPS attorneys that deal in our mental health courts shared with me is that as an LPS conservator, you have the same legal rights as a uniformed police officer or a licensed mental health care worker in terms of getting your loved one into the hospital if they're destabilized. The problem is sometimes, how do you get them there? If you can't get the CAT team or somebody else to transport them, if they're not willing to get in the car and go with you back to the hospital, sometimes that is the challenge. Finally, once the county council here in Orange County clarified the legal point to the rest of the community, and that unfortunately, I worked with Charlie Solano. He's a police chief, former police chief, that was in charge of the CIT training, and they actually then incorporated that into the CIT training for all of Orange County, sheriff, police, and local. And so I really push you then to find out who's in charge of your CIT training for your community, work with the county council, and get that turned around.
I mean, I'll give that a shot. Again, I really don't like our county council. I actually know them on a personal basis, and they're pretty tricky to work with. Especially our public defenders. They've got a bit of an attitude, so I'm just letting people know.
It's your mental health director of San Diego.
Oh, no, LaShonda Gaines is very, very hard to work with. I mean, I've had to write many requests for remediations. I had to go all the way up to healthy. I mean, I don't mind. I'm good at what I do, but it's just, for other people who may not have enough patience or are really stressed out because it is an emotional burden to become conservator, I'm just letting you guys know. And also, another last point is San Diego County, just understand there's a lot of stuff you need to know about the kinds of play, the differences between the levels of placement. So the public conservator may recommend that they be conservator because it's a lot of work. You have to work with Medi-Cal, you have to make phone calls, you have to sign paperwork. And if a lot of you guys might have full-time jobs, so it's like 2 full-time jobs. So just be aware, being conservator is helpful, but it's also a lot of work.
I can go on to public conservatorship if it's too much.
Mm-hmm.
With the public guardian's office.
Right. Okay. Next question.
Not sure if someone else wants to unmute themselves, but Leslie, raise your hand again.
Okay, I have another question which you may have just answered, but can the conservatee under the conservatorship live at home? And is, from what you've said, is that not a great idea?
It depends. My conservatee is with me right now. It's not a problem. Also, I was informed that you can actually charge rent, which helps because if it's a big guy, they're eating lots of food, right?
Yeah.
You can charge rent for that. It used to be that that was something that could just be started, and now there's actually a form that Social Security is requiring you to fill out here in Orange County. You fill it out. They want to know what your income stream is and all the rest, how much your household expenses are, how much money you spend on food. But you can request that from Social Security, and they will actually then allow you to charge rent to your conservatee while they're living in your home.
Okay.
It's a good idea to charge the rent, because when you're filling out those forms at the end of the year for SSI, you want to put that they've paid rent for food and clothes, or food and shelter, because otherwise they will start to take your money away or their money away. So, you can collect it, use it for them any way you want, but that CalAble is a good resource to put money in because you can give it to them without it affecting anything.
And what is the source of the funds in the CalAble account? Me. Okay. Okay. Just like money that I can put in there. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. And it doesn't go against his SSI, where if he were in like a board and care and maybe he's collecting $1,200 a month from SSI, but the board and care is $1,300 and you pay that extra $100, Social Security will take out $50 of that, and you go, doggone, now I got to pay $150.
Let me share too.
For CalAble, you don't.
Okay.
So I had a situation where coming out of MHRC, wasn't able to do all of that. My mind just went blank. But I found a board and care on my own. It was a great board and care, and got our son in there. The problem was the cost was way above normal, so I found myself having to supplement the cost. And of course, I knew that was going to ding the SSI payments. So I, at that time, was talking to the Social Security office down in Mission Viejo, because they were pretty savvy down there, more so than most, at least they used to be. And they said, well, what you can do is you can just take out a loan. So your son's borrowing the money, have it written out, use my name, that the gentleman I'm referencing to in Social Security, and that he would authorize me to do that. And that's exactly what I did. And then I discovered CalAble. So then the idea was that I would then put funds into the CalAble account, and then from there, transfer the funds over into the payee account for rent. And that would have prevented any loss of government funds. So you could just go through CalAble and skip the loan concept altogether and not face any challenges from Social Security.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
It's pretty clever about that loan. I like that, Jim.
That was their recommendation. Believe me, I jumped on it.
Yeah, great idea.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Are we all good?
That's wonderful.
We can,
I think I saw one from Patricia on the chat, but let me see. She asked, what questions do you ask the hospital psychiatrist?
I'm not sure what she's referring to. It's more like the psychiatrist asks you.
Oh, because well, her information here says, what questions do you ask the hospital psychiatrist? I don't want to waste time and want to be quick and to the point.
Jim?
I'm at a loss.
Me too. Alexander? Nope.
Well, I think I can kind of understand the question, though. I mean, yeah, is there like a you know, like a standard way, like a mold or a template or something, so you can follow this when you're having a conversation with the psychiatrist. I mean, just a few hot points, because we kind of covered that about you want to be respectful with a psychiatrist, and they have to communicate. I don't know what I would add. I wish I could.
Neither do we. Okay, is that the...
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, there might be some common symptoms or something. I mean, the common issues. I'm not a psychiatrist myself. That might not clear anything up.
Yeah. No, I don't know. Are you getting some more questions?
She's still on the call, so she's welcome to use the chat again or unmute herself. We do have one from Victoria. It says, if I don't get the conservatorship, can I still get one if they are leaving the jail, going to Patong Hospital?
To Patton?
Yeah.
If for a miss for incompetent to stand trial? Or are they under the LPS?
It was incompetent to stand trial.
They will be putting them on medication. Now, just for your own benefit, that's a very low level of treatment at this point. It's getting them so that they understand what's happening in the court. When they get that, they will send them back to the jail. If they go off the medicine, then they'll start again. I would, if it were me, I would talk to the treating doctor at Patton and give them the history, symptoms, and gravely disabled, and ask them to please initiate the LPS conservatorship. You're going to have to fight for it because they'll give you every excuse in the world why not. Because the LPS is, remember, it's mandating medication. So now you can get medication that is quality medication that will give them clarity of thinking. Otherwise, they're just kind of a low level of treatment.
Okay. And I was told by the public defender that after she leaves the other, once she goes to Patton, they're going to send her maybe to like a community-based, not back to jail. She was telling me that.
But if she's not under the LPS conservatorship, it may be harder for her to maintain her recovery long enough so that it becomes more embedded in her recovery.
So it's better to try to get the conservatorship so I can.
I would tend to do that. But she also might be under AOT, assisted outpatient treatment. But remember, they cannot make you take the medication. The judge can request it, But if you don't take it, there's no teeth in that program.
Yeah, she was on the AOT, but it seems like when she went to jail, I was able to get her on that. They said that they no longer handle her case anymore. She can't be on it anymore. So
Why, I wonder?
I don't know. That's what I was wondering too. But they said because she's in the jail, they can't do anything further. And we never got to do anything at all, really.
That's all the more reason for them to be with her,
Right.
to follow her. But it could be maybe if they're sending her to Patton, they can't do anything when she's in Patton.
Okay.
Maybe, I don't know.
I was under the impression, there's one of the moms that I know, is just a brilliant lady. She's so intelligent. And she went through the whole process of her son, after being homeless for so long, was arrested for stealing some sushi. And when the store owner said, "Hey, give me the sushi back," he has a size 14-foot shoe, right? He's huge, big guy. And he turned around and he said, "If you keep following me, I'm going to hurt you." Felony charge, and off he went. So he was going through the same issues up in the city of Ventura and Ventura County. And I was under the impression from her that she was not going to be able to get a conservatorship, a standard conservatorship on her son while that process was in motion. And I can't swear to that, but that was the impression that I got. I would refer you out to this individual because she volunteered to do that, but she's currently going through chemo and not up to taking phone calls at this point in time. But what county, do you know what county the charges are being made in?
Los Angeles.
Okay.
Yeah. If they're going to Patton, Jim, she can probably get the LPS from Patton. The doctors over there tend to do it.
Okay.
They're pretty agreeable. But when you start getting Northern California, it's a whole new ball game. I mean, that's like a whole new country up there when it comes to mental illness.
Yeah,
And
like,
they don't always follow the laws. The laws sometimes are quite clear, but they muddle them quite a bit.
I'll look into that. Who's asking the question? Who was asking the question? Who were we talking to?
The question to me, Victoria, about the.
Okay.
Oh,
Victoria, do this for me. Send me an email, and then in the meantime, I'll try to track it down right away for you. Okay?
okay. Regarding the question.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I left their contact information in the chat. It might be a little bit up, so I might just try to copy and paste it again so it's fresh down in the chat.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Patricia has her hand up.
Hello.
Hi.
Yes.
I have my question in the chat. But basically what I said is, let me go back to it. As a conservator, may I request behavior psychiatric paperwork from the acute psych hospital? Because with the COVID regulations in place, it's difficult to see, observations of like conservatee attending groups or any other sort of behaviors that, are evidence towards his mental state. So I was just curious, like, could I request it or how does it work? Because I requested it from another hospital, which is fine. But then I just want to make sure that like there's communication, because I feel like when I email, it's very like, I don't know. I just want to make sure that it's that the medication that he's on is working and we're moving towards something that is positive.
You can request, they usually put it on a CD.
Oh, okay.
You can request that. You'll have to pay for it, but they're very good at giving the records, and that's a smart thing to do, actually.
About how much it is, so that way I know, kind of like the range.
I don't know how much. How much it would cost? I don't know. I think each hospital their records department will charge different amounts. So you'd have to ask them.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
We're getting close to 3:30. I don't know if you want to accept a few more questions, just one. If anybody has any last questions. Okay, it seems like everybody has presented, they've asked their questions. Thank you again, Gail, Jim, Alexander, Mr. Harold. Thank you all the participants. Again, this information is at the NAMIUrbanLA.org website. You just go under our resource tabs and just click at the very top. It'll take you to where our links of the presentations of yesterday and today. And I have put in the chat contact information. So just make sure to sign up for our emails so you stay up to date. And yes.
Araceli, thank you so much. Harold,
Thank you.
Jim, and Alexander, thank y'all so much. I really am grateful. I really am. Y'all do a great job. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.